Hello, everyone, and welcome to another one of our Video Game Workshop podcasts. So, I'm Dennis,
I'm Charlie.
and today I think we're going to be talking about our latest game that we just released, Headliner. You can go ahead and play that right now on our website. You can also follow us and the podcast here on YouTube, on Patreon, and anywhere that we have social media right now.
Yeah, I'm excited because Headliner is so fun and so good and out now. But yeah, Headliner started out as
Good
a
plug.
funny idea that you had, Dennis. Do you want to talk about when you first started it?
Yeah, so we were developing something like another game in the background, and we have a prototype for that. We're going to keep going back to that one too, but just as a kind of reprieve, there was just so many weird things in the news lately, right? Like so many headlines, and obviously everybody has like fatigue over it, but there's a couple
Yeah.
that kind of like slip through the cracks there. It's like, oh, this bird dropped a fish and caused a massive power outage because it hit a transformer. That's interesting. Or they pulled over a car and there was a raccoon with a meth pipe. And when they took the meth pipe away, it reached for another one. The things that you're probably not hearing about because it's all drowned out by everything else.
Yeah, I think Dennis sent me one or two of those or referenced them in conversation, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because my news feed, I think like pretty much everybody's, including yours, Dennis's, but is
Right.
just like all absolutely horrible news. Like you get fatigue, like doom scrolling through it. And then Dennis was like, "Did you see this thing in the news about the raccoon?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And so then he started sending me some of the funny things that he would get that I didn't get, and it was so fun and just completely unguessable, I think was the fun of it. Like there's no
Yeah.
way that you would have made no one could have written that headline better if it was like fake, right? And so
Right.
then you started gathering some of those together, sending them to me, and then you decided to kind of like, what if I could make a game out of this?
Now that I think about it, it kind of like evolved from like a folk game, for lack of a better term of it, right? You only read part of the headline and you say like, "Guess what?" or "What do you think it is?" Right? Like that's really the evolution of it. The jarringness of it, right, opens it up for really having your mind go wild and sort of fill in the spaces. So that was kind of the seed of it. And then we were thinking like, what could we do with that to kind of like show these headlines, because these are all real headlines. I think that's the weirdest part of it, right? Like they're all real headlines that are out there right now that are not gaining any traction, even though they are absolutely absurd. It's kind of like the murder hornets, like way back when, right? Like,
Right, and it's the thing is that they're real and like you can verify that they're real, and that's like the real fun of it, the like kind of reveal when you're
right,
playing a puzzle game, it's like you finally figure it out and then you want there to be some sort of like reveal at the end of it, and it's like the reveal is that like there's actually a link to the article. It's completely real. We didn't make it up. Here it is. And so then you were kind of like, how can I incorporate that fun I just sent you the link reveal into this
right.
game of guessing like what the headline is.
Exactly. And then it kind of felt, just because they were already headlines, right? Like it kind of felt natural that we would put them in a format that would be like in a newspaper or something like that, rather than just like the reveal, because I think there's not a lot of like stickiness, and I think it deflates some of the impact of this if you reveal it right away, right? Like we've been talking about friction in the previous episodes in terms of how like there has to be a little bit of friction. You can't just give things to the player, because then the player doesn't really recognize or appreciate it to some degree, right? Like, so instead of just sending over like, these are the top 10 weird headlines that you missed like last week or something like that, which really like you get some of the impact, like maybe one or two of them are like, oh, that's weird or whatever, but you scan them really, really quickly because everybody scans everything. And some of those don't really stick, some of those don't really land. So how do you make it so that you have people take a beat or two to really digest it? And that idea of, how could we have a recap, and how could we have people engage with it more like in a gamey sort of way, and a wide variety of people too, right? We were thinking like a crossword is a good idea and a good vehicle for this. So we prototyped it. We were like, okay, can we create a crossword generator? We were also working on like a generator for another sort of project. And we were like, okay, can we mash these things together and kind of see like what happens? And it was pretty funny because we got the first one and it had the crossword stuff, and the clues were literally the headlines with an underscore that was just like, okay, fill in the blank of what's in here. But what was really cool was that the crossword had the gating mechanism of at least giving you as many letters in the word. And then the fact that it crossed over with other clues meant that eventually you'd be able to reveal them. So it was a way to have people still guess. Like you could still play that folk game of like, you'll never guess what was in the headline, um, while
Right.
still giving feedback, even if you're not there.
Yeah, and it's you start getting more and more clues towards it, and it makes the reveal more absurd because you're kind of realizing how much time it took you to get to that answer and how many clues you needed. I also really love when I already know the answer right away. Like it's
Yeah.
I read the article like the header as the clue and I'm like, "Oh, I heard about this." It's like they're playing, a clip from like blank to scare off the wolves. And it's
Yeah.
like I saw that story. I know that they're playing a clip from Marriage Story like where they're yelling at each other.
Right.
And it doesn't make it feel bad that I know it because like I feel in on the joke,
Yeah.
which is fun. Like it's like either you get the joke as the recipient or you feel like you're in on the joke when you already know it, which is like really a hard line to hit sometimes because with puzzle games you feel like if you know the answer right away it often doesn't feel good, but if it takes too long to get there then it also doesn't feel good. And this way it kind of doesn't matter, like either you can't get it and you slowly fill in letters until you understand it, or maybe you quit, you just decide to get it but you still get a really funny headline, or you already knew the answer right away and that's super fun and you get to be in on it and figure it out and then it helps you figure out the other ones. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Plus,
it's just really clever.
like you said, it makes you feel like an insider, right? It also adjusts the difficulty to a little bit, right? In terms of like, oh, you're bound to have heard one of these because these are weird headlines. They're on social media. You just might not have heard about all of them. So you have that sort of stepping stone, and then you can move on to the next sort of stuff. I really like the conversations that people have around it, though, where they solve one, and then they're like, "Wait, did that actually happen? I can't believe that." You have something to start with, which was really cool about it too. So yeah, like after we prototyped it, we kind of sent it out to some of our friends. And it was funny, the traction, right? Like we talked a little bit about this in the past, but it helps to have that scaffolding too, right? Like the fact that it's a crossword means that a lot of people already kind of know the rules and it can bootstrap them into the more interesting sort of stuff. Like you don't have to have a tutorial because they know exactly what's going on with it. It's really fast paced. It gives you exactly what you want. And we did go ahead and have like a I give up sort of thing, right? Because this is the type of game where if you're not making a lot of traction, but you still want to know what's going on with it, revealing the headlines is part of the fun, right? So we do have a gate, like we say, are you sure? So we put it in your hand and we don't just automatically reveal it. But we know that on some games, right, like after you play it a couple of times, you're like, if I had a lot of time, I'd be able to beat this, but I really want to know what this is. So we go ahead and have that aspect of it too, which I think worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and I think it's been really fun that when we first started it and we started sending it out to people, it was like when you finished the crossword, the big reveal was that all of the links showed up for all of
Yeah.
the articles and you could click through and look at them. And people liked it, but it was almost a little overwhelming to have all of the links at once. And when they got the answer right, they weren't totally sure if it was right away. And because they're so ridiculous, it's not really like a regular crossword where you know the answer and that's how you know it's right, or like you can check it, like you can check it with other answers
Hmm.
but it always feels a little ridiculous. So we changed it so that if you type in the right answer, you know it's right away, it turns green and you get the link to the news article right away. I think it helps with like keeping people in the crossword longer even though they could link out and see the title. I don't think it's very often that someone would choose to click on the link after getting the right answer and then read the entire article and then forget to come back to the crossword. I think it's usually more of like a, oh my God, that's so funny. There's the link, like it's real.
Right.
And then
It's
they go
real.
back to the
It's there.
crossword. Right. Like the link isn't totally there for you to read the article. The link is more just there as proof. So showing it right away gives you kind of like a little boost, like you got it and it's funny. And it's like you get like 10 to 12 laughs out of the crossword rather than one big laugh at the end, which I think has been helpful. And it's also just, yeah, it's super fun to watch people play it and slowly get more and more, and they like laugh the entire time instead of having the one big laugh at the end.
Right. It's that pacing sort of thing, right? And a lot of people who make comedy games talk about that, where it's like the pacing is really key to the joke. You might have a setup, but you have to have some breathing room in order for the punchline to kick in. Portal did a super good job of this, where they kind of had the VO kick in at key points in the puzzle where they know that you'd get to. So that way you sort of control the tempo, but it doesn't just like set up a joke and then just like say it right away. Or like the Stanley parables, same sort of thing, right? Like it waits for your impact, it waits for your input in order to actually reveal some stuff. And because of that, you have some control over the pacing, some control of it, and you kind of feel like you're a little bit more in on the joke too. But yeah, like you said, Charlie, it was a good. And this is iteration too, right? Like, so we had playtests, we had people check it out, and I think the change to slowly reveal them one at a time was really nice for that too.
Another fun thing that we got from feedback from people, I think, was that when they got the reveals of the articles and then they saw that they were all real and they laughed, I think most people asked, when did this happen? Was this week? Did this just
Yeah,
happen? And I thought that was really interesting because it's funny. It's like, I don't know why on paper it matters when the raccoon was found at the crack pipe,
right,
right?
right,
Like, I don't think it actually does matter, but like, it is something that you instinctively want to know because it's somehow funnier if it just happened versus if it's a headline from like 5 years ago, right? Like,
right.
someone who knows more about comedy than me could like tell me why it's funnier if it just happened. I know that it's true. I mean, Dennis, I don't know if you know the answer to that, but
People love being insiders in terms of like, oh, I just heard about this and it's relatively new, right? So it's fresh. The chances of you going up to someone and telling them and having them have a reaction like this is higher. That aspect of it makes it fresh, keeps it fresh.
yeah, and I think that if people hadn't cared as much about when the articles were from, we may have approached puzzle making a little bit differently because we would just put in the funniest articles that we could find whenever we felt like it. But because it seems like people really enjoyed it, enjoyed sharing it with their friends, and enjoyed how relevant the articles were or wanted them to be relevant, it kind of did make us think more and more about like, how often do we put these out? How often
Yeah.
do people want to share them? We had already been talking about this crossword as being something that is a tool that we could use as often as we wanted to. Once you have the base game, we can switch out the content. It was just kind of, how often do we want to switch out the content? How much work is it? How much do people actually like it? Because we don't want to spend a bunch of time on something people don't like. And so then it became, okay, well, if people really like relevant news articles that are funny and they like to share them with friends, now we're kind of looking at more of like a daily puzzle, or a weekly puzzle or a monthly puzzle. Like, what's our cadence? Because that's really popular right now to have
Hmm.
different sorts of puzzles that are on a set schedule to share with friends and family. And we were talking about, well, how often can we find these headlines? How easy is it up for us to switch these headlines? If I got an email every single day with a crossword that had like 12 to 15 articles in it, I don't know if that would feel overwhelming to me.
Right.
But that's how, I don't know, on the regular person, it might feel like too many news articles in one day. Like, this is kind of supposed to be an antidote to news fatigue. Like, you're still consuming the news that you need to consume that is not fun, but you're getting a little taste of these funny articles in case you missed them. In case your algorithm is as doom and gloom as mine is, but it's not like you necessarily want it every day. Maybe some people would, but I was thinking about maybe not daily. Monthly seemed too long, so we were thinking maybe closer to weekly is where we landed, right?
Yeah. So you agree that Netflix should not drop the whole series all at
No, I
once
didn't
then?
say that. No.
No, we talked about this a while back actually, and it's interesting because I think a lot of the streaming services have also adopted the same sort of things that we're talking about right now, right? And for the same reasons, I think, right? Like there's an information overload kind of like if you drop everything from a series all at once. And I get it. Like if you really like the series, you want to see what happens next. You want to binge it,
Uh,
right? Like
I
that
think
sort
that
of
they
deal.
I think that they aren't really thinking about if they're going to overwhelm people or other people's well-being. I think they're thinking about how
Well,
long it stays marketable, how long they can get people to
okay,
pay monthly
but I do
subscriptions.
think that you're right, and I don't think that they're like mutually exclusive either, though. So like I think there's what they call like the water cooler sort of aspect of it, right? Like where if you see an episode, you want to make some predictions before the next thing comes out, before the reveal comes out, right? And
Oh yeah.
so yeah, and so you talk to people about it, but if you drop them all at once, and we've done this because it happened to us, right? Some people want to talk about it because maybe they haven't been able to see the whole season, so they're like, oh yeah, like I just finished watching like season 2 of Severance, can you imagine like what happened? And then someone's like on maybe the first episode of that season, and they're like, oh yeah, I have this like theory about it, and they really want to talk about it, but the people who have already finished the season, they're like, yeah, that's cool, but like that's not what happens at all, like, so it kind of deflates some of the conversation around it, I think.
Yeah, I think there is also something like psychologically about the value of it,
Oh yeah.
where each individual episode carries more weight and value because it's seen as something separate versus if you drop them all at once, it's seen as the season and it
Yeah.
can't be evaluated episode to episode as easily. And so when it comes to headliner, it's kind of similar where it's like if we were to do something daily, it would almost feel less special than if we
Right.
did something weekly because, well, I mean, I was going to say the headlines and the articles maybe wouldn't be as good,
Hmm.
because we'd have to get so many more of them versus like picking the best ones throughout the week. I don't know
Right.
if that's
That too.
totally true. There's like so much news we could really sort through.
No, but that
Um,
helps with curation. You're absolutely right about that.
it yeah, it helps with curation and also it's like rather than something that's always around every day that you can like almost get overwhelmed by or choose to do or not, it becomes something maybe that you can look forward to or
Hmm.
that you get in your mailbox and you can save for later because there's also the thing where if you got one in your mailbox and then there was another one the next day, even if you could go play both of them, like they don't overwrite, you almost don't want to go play the old one or you feel
Yeah.
like you're required to go play the old one and it's like or I have to go play it or it's going to get overwritten the next day. It's a little bit easier to be like, I can save this for later. So I
Yeah.
think that's nice.
Actually, I think you tapped into like another one of those like weird fears that people have, and I think about their Steam backlog, right? Like, so if they get something like a new game and they add it to their library, there's like some guilt. I'm not saying it happens to everybody, right? But there's some guilt of like, oh, my backlog's like way bigger. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Or sometimes like fatigue for a daily newsletter or something like that, where you're like, I didn't read the last issue and I feel like I need to read the last issue before I read this issue.
I do think, there's a lot of design considerations, but there's also a lot of developing considerations when it comes to, we've talked about how often we want to do it. Like daily would just be unsustainable for us as a team. Between the two of us, we have so many other projects that we want to be working on and doing that we don't want to spend, 2, 3 hours every day, like looking for best news articles and putting it in and putting it out. Weekly seems a little bit more doable, especially because the tool that we have will really size up and down. Like we don't have a set amount that we want in the crossword. Like it doesn't have to be exactly 15 clues every time. Sometimes it could be 9 or 8. Sometimes it could be up to like 12, 15. Like it's a little bit more up to us about not only how much time did we have that week to search for articles, but also how many good articles were there that week. Like we don't have to fill it out with ones that we don't actually think are that funny because we need to hit a number. We can just have a slightly smaller one. And I don't think that that negates the value. Like it's not like, where was my 15th article this week?
Right.
Because you're still getting a full puzzle and you're still getting probably more news articles than you'd ever want to like look at. Like having 8 news articles that have funny headlines, I feel like is more than enough in a week to like give you some laughs and move on. So maybe if
Yeah.
we had a crossword that only had like 4, that wouldn't feel like a full puzzle, you
Right.
know?
There's that sort of balance of how many of them, right?
Yeah, and so it just kind of gives us the ability to decide how many we want to do in that week and then put it out. I just like found one the other day, spoiler for people who will play the next headliner, but the headline was FDA warns public not to consume potentially radioactive shrimp. And I just like immediately took a screenshot of it and sent it to Dennis. So I was like, this is going in the next one. And then we just had to
Yep.
talk about, is it going to be potentially blank shrimp, or is it
Right.
going to be potentially radioactive blank? Which
Yeah,
is another, yeah, go ahead.
that's kind of something that I wanted to talk about too, because it's like the puzzle design is kind of fun too, right? Because
This is
you have to
exactly what I was
decide,
going to say.
yeah, you have to decide on exactly what word to remove, right? In order for people's imaginations to run wild. Like, where's the hook so that there's enough room for you to have like your theory about what's happening, but grounded enough so that you can actually guess it at some point, right?
Right. And I think it's also nice that, again, the dev work on our side is lighter by doing it that way, because if we had that same news article, but I had to come up with a clue for it, so it was like, trying to find some way to get people to guess the word shrimp or guess the word
Yeah.
radioactive, but have the clue be separate, it would just take a little bit more time. I'm not saying it's hard. I'm just saying you add that little bit of time for every single article and it becomes just a little bit less sustainable. But now it's like copy paste the name of the headline and choose what word to remove. And that's it. So it's like just a little bit less time spent on it. And also, the same story was in so many different magazines
Yeah.
and they all had the headline just a little bit different. So depending on where we want to link to or who has it written the best way for our needs, we can just switch it out, which makes it easier. Just copy paste, pick a word, and it's like we don't have to write clues. We just have to get the links working, can keep it going nice and fast.
I forget which word did you choose? I think I chose the other one, right?
Yeah, I wanted it to be radioactive blank.
Hmm.
And you were
And I
saying
was
like,
like blank shrimp, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
potentially blank shrimp.
yeah.
I
I
think
do
that
think that you're probably right. I think you're probably right on that because you get some of that like punch of like, wait, you're eating something radioactive in the first place, right? Like, so the
I think
secondary sort of thing is like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah, I think there's comedy in both directions where it's like
right,
potentially blank shrimp, your mind goes to like contaminated
right,
or, like false or, is this the IKEA horse meatballs all over again?
right,
Like you're
right,
going in
right.
that direction. And then you find out that it's radioactive and you're like, how on earth would shrimp become radioactive? That's the funny
Exactly.
part. Versus if you remove shrimp, you're going to don't consume potentially radioactive blank. You're like, what would Walmart be selling that people are eating that's radioactive? And then your mind is going to like, are people eating stuff that isn't food again? Are
Right.
they licking the lead
The
paint?
Tide
Like, what's
Pods.
going on? Do we have to tell people not to eat the Switch cartridges again? We have to paint them with
Again.
bitter stuff, like
Right.
again, and then it's like you find out that it's shrimp, which I feel like is just kind of a funny animal and word to begin with. Like,
Yeah,
just
it's true.
shrimp as a concept is kind of funny. And so then it's in that direction. And like I said, both are funny. It's just depending on which one we want to do. And like whoever found the article or has a stronger opinion, you just like pick one. Both are going to be great.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, just trying to make it as funny as possible, right?
Whatever information you have to start with just becomes the norm. And then you have to make it into a funny image rather than going the other way.
So yeah, it is interesting, and we got a lot of good feedback. I think that was the other part too, right? Like people wanted to share this, like we said, they wanted to be insiders. They wanted to have other people play through it. It was a fun asynchronous sort of activity for people to have, which was really cool.
Plus, then people started sending us articles to add into the game, which was super
Exactly.
fun. Like, we
Exactly.
got someone like message us out of the blue and be like, here's one for you. And it's like, that's great. Like, that's how you know that they're thinking about it outside of
Yeah.
playing the game. And, if more and more people started playing it, would more and more people start like adding us to it, which would be really fun. So I love that interaction.
Yeah, I love that too.
Now that we've had Headliner out for 2-ish weeks or
Mhm.
so, we finished the dev, we have it out, we like how it looks, we've been testing it with friends and family. We wanted to, update it and put in a new puzzle. And so we have this thing now at the bottom where you can like type in a code, like a puzzle ID, and it will load up a new puzzle ID. And that's how we were testing lots of different types of puzzles with different friends. But then we kind of have like a couple side puzzles. We talked about like maybe we'll do a Halloween themed one, maybe we'll do a science one like your original thing was. It's very flexible on the back end, but
Right.
mostly it'll be these weekly puzzles. Then it became, well, should the puzzle always be on the same website? And every week at like, midnight on Sunday, it's going to update. and then you can't play the last one? Should the previous ones have like a seed, like a puzzle ID? So if you want to play last week's, you can put in that puzzle ID. Do people even really want that? And so we've been kind of playing with like, how flexible do we want it to be on the player side versus how much of that is like not really needed or only for people who really care about it. Like, where do we want it to be if it only lives just on our website, and maybe we email people to go check our website? It's not embedded, it's not an app yet, anything like that. So I don't know, we've talked a little bit about it. I think we'll probably talk more about it as it's out for a while, or as we
Right.
like hear more from people who are playing it as they start sharing it. We've really only had a couple of friends and family play it so far as it's been out. So
Yeah. Yeah. But there is something cool, like you said, about that cadence of it. And like you said, we made it so that we have an engine now. So we have the curation sort of part. And I think that got us thinking about what are some other things that we can do similarly, right? Like I remember playing a Puzzmo puzzle. I think you showed it to me. That was kind of like a Sudoku-ish sort of thing. That at the end, when you solved the puzzle, it gave you the day's weather, and I thought that that was really really cute. That was really
mhm.
smart. And
Big plug
I
for Puzzmo, by the way.
right
Puzzmo's
right
great.
there we go. Yeah, but similarly, I think we were both thinking like, what are some other cool things that we can do so that we can have like some sort of daily offering or some sort of cool thing that you can come to our site and see, or you can come to our like itch page and play, just so that
Yeah.
you have something interesting, or and then we were thinking about this, right? Like I totally miss like the old school like Sunday paper puzzle comics sort of page. And I wonder if we could get enough of those where we would have something like on Sunday or whatever, right? Where it's like, hey, here's all these other puzzles that we've been making throughout the week. They're updated throughout the week, but if you want to, you can just like sit down and play some of them on Sunday or whatever.
Yeah, I think we were using the term daily kind of loosely here because, like
Right,
Headliner was like a daily that we
right,
decided to put out weekly. And I think the dev process of it was fun because we wanted to make something like really doable for our team, just the two of us, that we could put out and test right away, and like wouldn't be a year-long development, just something fun that then now we have this tool that we can do weekly. And we were like, okay, well, we really liked that. We should make another one. I don't know if it'll be daily or weekly or monthly, but we should try to make some sort of other engine. Maybe if it's weekly, we do it on a different day of the week than we
yeah.
have Headliner update, so that it's not like they all update on Sunday, but it's more just like, here's the one for Wednesday, here's the one for this, so that there's a little bit of a cadence. Maybe they should all update on what Sunday so that you can play them throughout the week. But
I don't know.
I
I
think,
like the idea of having like a daily drop. If you're really interested in like one of the puzzles or something like that, you can go ahead and do
yeah,
that.
like
But
something daily, but it's not like, like we said, it's not a new crossword every single day. It's
yeah,
more just like, if you go on there, there's something new every day in case you go on daily. But if you don't, that's okay because you've got all of these other ones from the past week. I kind of like that idea. Not that like we would need to have all sorts of daily puzzles, but more just that it's a really fun side of game design to explore because
hmm,
we can make small like MVPs and see how we like it and test it with friends. And then if we really like it, we can go farther. And if we don't, we already
right.
have something really nice to put out for people. So I think definitely make another one and see how that goes.
Yeah, the scope thing is a really important thing. Like I think you were saying too. It also lets you really focus on like what the there is, right? Like we already talked about it for Headliner. It's the surprise. It's the inviting you to make up weird headlines for it, right, in the background, using the crossword system that you already know as a kind of scaffold to build off of. Actually, so we didn't talk about that scaffolding sort of part of it too, which I think is super cool. But that's kind of the same thing that Balatro did, right? In terms of getting people to actually go in and play the roguelike game that could have had its own deck building system. It could have had its own, like, it could have used tarot cards at the end of the day, right? Like it could have done any of that easily, but there was an emphasis to do it with poker cards and playing cards because they're kind of ubiquitous, right? Like you don't have to have a tutorial for it.
Yeah, for Balatro specifically, it was definitely a double-edged sword, right? Because like people already know what cards are. They know how to play cards. They know what a hand is. They know like that you can put combinations together, even if they don't know what the combinations are.
Right.
Like I had never played poker, So like I didn't know what made up a full house, but I knew that you combined cards together in a certain way to lay down to get points, right? And just knowing that took off like several minutes of a tutorial. You know, this is a card, this is a hand, this is how you lay things down. Like, didn't have to do all of that. The
Right.
downside is that it did take me a minute to like get into Balatro because I was like, I don't want to play a poker game. I don't want to play a betting game. You know, I
Right.
think that they got like 18 plus on the Apple Store or something because of like gambling, just
Right.
because they had like poker cards and combinations in it. So it's like, in their case, kind of double edged sword, kind of like pros and cons. But if you're just looking at it from a like get people to play faster lens, like just skip more tutorialization, using some sort of language that's already known is great.
Right. And
And
it doesn't just have to be like the playing cards. Like this is the same thing like with dice, right? Like there are games out there that are trying to show like some probability system. And instead of saying like there's an X% chance or something like that, they show you a dice. Just because it's really, really easy to then think, oh, I have to roll these. They have a percent chance because of this number of faces. So that way you can focus on the parts that you're not familiar with and sort of get to it faster, right?
right, which is why, you know, Headliner, instead of coming up with a unique mechanic for trying to guess the missing word from a headline, which is really the core of the game, it's like
Mm-hmm.
there is a funny headline with a word missing, and you are going to guess what it is and then get the laugh from the link. Like that's the
Right.
core of it. You know how to interact with it, you know how to click on a cell and then type to get it in. We don't have to teach any of that. So we get you past like, how do I play the game and into the actual content of the game so fast, which is, I think, really good if you have like a low barrier daily, weekly puzzle. You just want someone to play quickly. They don't have to learn a whole bunch of rules. They can just kind of get to the content of the puzzle, which is super fun.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think when you design like a daily puzzle-ish sort of thing, right? Like you want to be able to remove some of that friction. There was one other thing that I was thinking about in terms of like the scaffolding and the theming sort of parts of it, which is, Nintendo kind of does the reverse of this, which I think is really cool too. Sometimes they have an interesting mechanic, but they don't really have a way to have people warm up to it, right? So they're like, oh, yeah, we have some go karts. Like, it's really fun. But there's not really a market for go karts out there. There's not really an interest for go karts out there. And so, what do? Well, because they're Nintendo and they have access to a bunch of IP, they put their own characters in it. And suddenly you have Mario Kart, right? Where it's like, or like Mario Golf is a great example of that too, right? Like, there's not many people who are like, wow, I'm just like waiting for the new golf game or whatever. But maybe I want to see Yoshi smack a ball on on the green here, and that's more interesting, right? That familiar skin is doing a lot of work in getting people to try it or to be in the world or get in the theme of it before they actually appreciate the mechanics over time. Because there's a lot of cool stuff that happens in Mario Kart, but there would probably be a lot less people who played it without that skin of these are Nintendo characters. Same sort of thing, I think, with like Smash Brothers. It's an interesting fighting twist on it without health. They have like the recoil sort of gauge and all that sort of stuff. But the very first prototype that they made of it was literally these rigged skeletons that look like polygons, and it was early in development, that sort of deal. But I think Miyamoto probably, because he's always the guy who does this, right, is like, what if that was Star Fox, or what if that was Mario? And they had that, right? So they put the characters in, and then suddenly it was funny because it had that twist, it had that familiar twist, it had those characters that you already knew now beating the crap out of each other, and there's a cool system underneath. But you wouldn't have appreciated that system without that like buy-in, right?
Totally. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to play Headliner, again, it's on our website, and also you can find us on at Video Game Workshop on social media, on Patreon, on YouTube, anywhere online. I've been Charlie.
And I'm Dennis.
Thanks.